I be ballin', wrote to William. Hey, what up? It's your girl Ashley. I be ballin' with a I be ballin' basketball show, and today we're gonna review the Netflix movie Untold: The Rise and Fall of AND1. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it all, the rise and the fall. First, let me introduce Ro to William. William, what up?
What up, y'all? What's poppin'?
Tell him
Um,
a little bit about your channel.
Road to William, go check out my channel. We do movie reviews, life reviews, And yeah, I'm gonna be posting some more videos in the future, so stay tuned.
Okay. So, growing up, 90s kid, I remember N1, hot sauce, the professor, you know, I remember it a lot, video games, logos, you know, and when I do movie recaps, I always start off by saying, what's one word? If you had to describe this film in one word, what would it be? And mine would be nostalgia
Mhm.
because I do think it created a lot of nostalgia because, like, the mix. The mixtapes, the VHS. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't got no VHS tapes no more,
They don't know what that is.
the VCR,
Right.
the little TVs and, you
Mhm.
know, camera with it's kind of grainy, it's not very clear, but,
Right.
remembering, a lot of the players, but also, seeing the players reminisce and, talk about, you know, their stories and thought it was very, influential as well, So that would be my word. Nostalgia, influential. What would your word be to describe this movie?
Oh, I had it written down.
Okay.
Well, I had two words because I was like conflicting. The first word would be first, but then the other one would be one. So it's really one, which is part of their name, but which is ironic. But my word would be one.
Okay. Expand
Because
on
we
that.
had to be the first one to step out, the first ones to kind of make it underground. Like we know Nike and Adidas, that's a big brand, but you don't really know much about their background. But this documentary did a really good um, um, story. They created a really good storyline to base off this history because they were the first ones to be like recognized as an underground thing.
Okay. One, the first. So
Wow.
they they talked about a lot of the history, right? And how it all got started. And it
Yeah.
all started with, three guys who graduated, school, business school, and they didn't want to work the 9 to 5 corporate America, the desk type of jobs. So that's how it all started. Let me get their names. One is Tom Austin. Other one is Seth Berger. I I hope I pronounced these words, their names correctly,
Mm.
I butcher a lot of names. So I'm sorry if I butcher your name, you
Like
know.
Cheryl Lee Ralph character on Avid.
Oh yeah, well,
Mixes
yeah, that
people up.
character, I feel like that character, she mostly doesn't, she gets the characters mixed up too.
Right.
Like she thinks somebody is,
Someone else. Yeah.
somebody different,
Yeah.
She thinks 50 Cent is Jay-Z, you know. You know, that's kind of how.
But you don't call her out on it. You like, right.
Yeah, he just let her be like, yeah, yeah, sure, sure. But the
Right.
three guys, Seth Berger, Tom Austin, and Jay Gilbert, right? They started it, first they started off with like, t-shirts and, that blew up because it's like, you know, basketball t-shirts, logos, saying a lot of trash talk, basically. A lot of trash talk on the t-shirts, did your mama forget to pack your game? I'm the bus driver, I'm gonna take you to school,
Right.
different t-shirts like that. And,
Mhm.
they tried to, expand with shoes and
Goodness.
it turned out to be a disaster because, they tried to get their Michael Jordan sort of, you know, kind of how like Nike got Michael Jordan, right? So they picked Stephon Marbury, big name, big, especially in, New York. Everybody in New York knows Marbury. Big star, he's making his Timberwolves debut and, he breaks his foot in the shoes, before the shoes even come out, and yeah, his agent was pissed because, they probably didn't design the shoe that well. It's kind of like the Ball family when LeVar Ball first did the shoes, like the shoes might have hurt Lonzo Ball's, injuries. But basically when you first start out, you don't really know what you're doing, right? So that was a bummer. So they had to regroup. And so that's when they saw street ball, uh, playing on the playground, all the different moves. And we're gonna talk a lot about these players because, I know Skip to my Lou, Ray for Austin, because he played in the NBA as well. And oh, also Lamarcus Austin, who is my friend he's a Bucks fan. He said that that's his cousin. So I was like, oh, okay, you're related to a big star. Okay. I was like, okay, there you go. But, they saw this and they're like, man, we gotta capture this. And so that's, how and1 mixtape began. And they started capturing all the moves. I feel like it's a lot of freedom, a lot of, poetry in motion, right? They had to find they couldn't probably find an NBA player, right? Because that backfired on them. So I
Yeah.
think getting the street ball players was a brilliant idea, because, it's cheaper and, guys want an opportunity, right? You
Yeah.
don't, your college career may not have, been successful. You may not even have a D1 or D2 or D3 scholarship. You may not have been, going to the NBA, but hey, we get paid to play ball. That was how they went on tour,
Mhm.
how can we capture this again, right?
True.
And that's how the mixtape tour began. And then, you know, I feel like it started with humble beginnings, cheap hotels to first class, minivans to tour buses, having a tour from city to city, then country to country. It turned international, right? And they
Yeah.
started adding more people, hot sauce, Mr. Professor. What I want to ask you is, who was your favorite and1 player? Did you have a favorite one? Who's which one was your favorite?
I'm gonna go with hot sauce.
Okay, okay. I can see why, because he was hot fire at the time. Um he told a little bit about his story. He's from Atlanta. He was like a local legend, been through some hard times, went to jail, made some mistakes, but he started he his dribbling was, something to behold. So, why was he your favorite?
Because he's like a blueprint. that, one of them underground people who paved the way but didn't get their full recognition. And they showed you proof that, yeah, we see the styles in NBA today, but it started from people like Hot Sauce, literally, just off doing it out of the passion and love for it. And so I think that's just dope within itself. He a living legend.
Exactly. He was like he probably was the most paid one, and he was like the marquee one. And also he was in a movie. w- I I have it on DVD actually. It wasn't that great of a movie. When you're thinking about movie reviews, it wasn't that great, but he was on the cover, right? And he was, the big part of it. And it also featured a young Anthony Mackie. It featured some, you know, actors and actresses at their, you know, when they first got started. I do want to do a movie review on it, but it wasn't that great of a movie, so I've been holding out on it. But I'll do a review on it. But I
Okay.
think my favorite would probably be Skip to my Lou, because I just love that name. And he made it to the NBA, but also he's kind of like skinny too, like and he's fast. But I also like the professor, seeing his story and how he tried out, did the tryouts from city to city, and he was working on his game, and the skinny white kid, and he got to be popular,
He was
and
my second favorite. I starred the two people, but I started with Hot Sauce because he the blueprint. And the professor was actually looking up to Hot Sauce and Main Event and all these other people. So it's like that's why I chose Hot Sauce first. But the professor was on there because he wasn't even in the vicinity in the area. And it's like if somebody from these tapes can just inspire somebody to drive out, and have their family back him. Like it's like that's like more amazing than what we're giving credit to it. Like that stuff usually just doesn't happen. And the fact that he got inspired just by these bootleg tape, it wasn't bootleg because it was them, which is great marketing, great strategy. I think people should keep going back to, the classics. Like when you go to a Bucks game, you want to take a piece of that with you. You know what I mean? You want to take a piece of something with you, but the fact that you can inspire somebody, that's just fire.
yep, everybody wanted that VHS tape. They wanted the gear. They wanted the autographs and the pictures. They was celebrities, icons, legends, and they weren't in the NBA, and they were selling out arenas more than the NBA team, you know. And they got to play in Mecca, the Garden, the Knicks arena. So they got a great experience. They got, to travel all over the world, and, you know, they made a lot of things happen. And so there was other players like AO, the main event, the dribble machine. Also, oh yeah, they had a video game. But also I feel like there was a really, really big, you know, chunky basketball player that was playing in AND1 too, and his name was Escalade. I wish they kind of did a little piece on him. I know he's um dead and gone now, RIP to Escalade. His name was Troy Jackson. He was the one that was really big, and he had a lot of different moves, and he was moving real good and stuff. But I wish they did a little piece on him, but they probably didn't because, he's gone away. But so, did you have a favorite scene in the movie?
Um, I like the basketball scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like hearing the commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was telling you this earlier. I really liked the main event. He was probably the funniest, but the realest because he spoke the truth regardless. Like, a lot of people come out with documentaries and the whole thing is like, you could be exposing the people who help, amplify what y'all was doing. But, they're all in it too. And I liked how I forgot the guy's name, but they asked him about that money situation. Like, hey, was it main event? He was trying to get his son in the basketball. And who
I think it
knows?
was AO. I think they both were bald, but it was AO. I think AO was the one that was more aggressive with, you know, the Sun situation. The main event was like kind of quiet about it.
He was more upset. Yeah,
Yeah, AO was more like upset about it.
yeah, but I liked how the other dude addressed it. Like I didn't know about. I don't know if that was BS, but he was like,
Yeah,
I
you
really
don't
not gonna
know.
know. But okay, you can still do something now like that. Look, that's the whole thing. Like I think everything needs to be dismantled, and build it back from the scraps from the people who actually put the time and work in and the love and passion, who really care about it. Not people who like, oh, we can make a buck because that's not. I mean, yeah, do people want to make money? Yeah, sure, because that's what we need. But like, what they weren't making money before this. Like, this is really their life. So the fact that this is just the thing, it's like it's not music, but it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Um, but it's like you just hope because they gave you this much money or this much stuff, this much opportunity, you trust that they're giving you everything. But then you find out that you not even seeing a penny. Like, you feel hurt about that. So I think they need to reconcile. I think people, artists of different sorts, need to go back and like renegotiate some things because everybody really in the same boat. Y'all trying to profit off them, but they need the resources, the back end, like instead of fighting in chaos over some money, they need to just sit down have a conversation. Side note, like Raising Canaan with that scene where they were trying to figure out with, Lou and then the artist they had and that white man, and it was in there trying to figure out why do they think this on this side and that on that. I think it's the same with stuff like this. They can revamp and one easy. If they was like, you know what, this summer we're gonna bring back Spring Bling, we gonna bring back, and one just to get the people hype again because especially
Yeah,
in times like these, it just keeps you kind of motivated. You don't want to wait all the way to the next Olympics or the next championship. Like it's summer, like summer coming, like it's a opportunity to help people like give hope again, just
yeah,
read.
yeah. I like what you said because let's talk about the fall. That was like a Fallout. Hey, Fallout video game. But you know, the rise was sweet, but then fall started. Um, players bickering about contracts and this player getting paid more than the other, and they said that it wasn't really a system to it. They was just thinking about who's the most popular players. They get the most money, and Hot Sauce and his agent were talking, and you know hey, he's gonna go to Reebok if you don't, all this.
You put your
And
foot in your mouth when you did that.
mm,
That's like Blockbuster saying, "Oh, we don't need that." Oh my goodness. Oh.
yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah. And it's like, I like that the professor wasn't really like getting into all the arguments. Like, yeah, he was probably like more popular because he's short and he's white, but you don't gotta hate on him for it. Like, and this is like, bro, if you were in the NBA, this is the same thing. Everybody in the NBA don't get paid the same.
Right.
There's no need to bigger. But I like how AO was talking about, hey, they getting pizza, but the staff they getting like filet mignon and stuff, So they started noticing the difference because if your face is on the t-shirts and they getting mad loot from the merchandise, you see the merchandise and they got paid, but like did they get paid enough? And also it's like yeah, they got paid because they got an experience. Like, I think Hot Sauce Miss and the professor, they still making money off of what they did in AND1, but now they got to do it by themselves. But still, it, they gave you a platform, right? So it's like, which side do you take? Do you take it because, hey, you would have just been in the hood? Or do you be like, no, I deserve more? And it's like, also, it's like, I think both people are sort of at fault, because even Ravenford Austin was like, hey, you signed the contract. You didn't have to sign the contract. So it's like you agreed to the number, right? So it's like when you come from the hood, you might accept anything first. You may not renegotiate it at first because you're like, this is a lot of money at first. And of course, I want to travel and play basketball and, do all these things. But then you start thinking, like, hmm, the founders are making more money. And so it's like, especially the people that first started. I don't know about the people that joined later, but the main people that started, the main players, like, yeah, maybe you should have got something that wasn't just, maybe you could have got a little bit of percentage of ownership or, equity or something, right? But, you're not thinking business at first sometimes. You just grab what you can get. Free shoes. At first, it was just free shoes and t shirts, I think, at first. And then, they started saying, like, oh, Hot Sauce got 90,000 and comparing the salaries. And I think both sides are at fault because the owners, or the founders, right? They should have took care of the players, especially the players that first started, you know. But how much do you pay them? I feel like both sides are at fault because both sides were just doing what they knew. It was new for both sides. Both sides never did this before. That's why. Oh, 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 oh,
Where's
snap.
my Judge Judy?
Okay, let me finish. Both sides, when you come from the hood, you don't really know what you're doing, so you just accepting anything. And then the founders, they're like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing, so we're just because the first time that they did the shoes, they failed. Then the second time comes around, and then they succeed with the shoes. They learning, right? And I feel like both sides are at fault because the founders they should have took care of AO in the main event. Like AO wanted 16,000 for his son to go to school. They didn't help him, and in fact, one of the founders said they don't even recall the conversation. Now, I don't really know if I believe them because if someone is asking for 16,000, you're gonna remember that. You know what I mean? It's not like somebody said, "Can you loan me $20?" Like if he said $20, I'll be like, "Yeah, you forgot about that," but it was 16,000. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, they're making thousands, right? The players are making thousands, but the founders, they're probably making millions. And it's like, also, you're thinking about more money because of the competition, but also you're thinking about, okay, if you have like 90,000, 80,000, 50,000, what are you doing with the money? You probably saving it, investing it, or you just blowing it on material things, depending. But once that money start dwindling, you like, I need some more money, right? So I feel like the reason why this ended is because greed was involved, ego was involved. If you took care of the players, players would still want to get paid. And also, players were mad because they they, they didn't know it was going to end. They didn't know. Hot sauce was like, no notice, no notice. And so it's like, so yeah, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts about, which side are you on?
I'm
You
on
didn't like it when I said both sides are at fault. Yeah,
I'm on the player side because they're
yeah,
the ones who make the game up. Without them, like
yeah,
you're basing the shoes off basketball players. Like,
yeah,
and they went to school for this. They went to college. A lot of the other guys did not go to college. You picking them off the court. You don't
yeah,
even give them an opportunity to be like, maybe y'all should invest in going to college, and then really figure out what you need to do in them years while getting a degree and then save that money and then boom, boom, boom. Give them some guides because don't just think, oh, this like a hustling game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we'll supply you what you need. You go out, do the thing, bring back our cut. You're like, wait, what are we doing? Might as well be on the street because that's how they're hustling them. Y'all know the game. Yeah, you're new to this industry, but you're not new to the business. That's the whole thing y'all went to school for. Okay? You could have taught them the business too. Hey, this is what we learned in school. Apply this because but that was y'all just thinking about the money right there, right now. So no,
yeah,
because if the people you're getting off the street and they background don't know, or maybe they do know, but they don't care enough, like, or they don't have the time enough to help invest and learn. There's the prime opportunity there. Like they should always have a relationship with them because y'all built something together and y'all made an impact together. So it shouldn't
yeah,
be like outside people telling y'all what you should do. It should be like, we know what we're doing. We did this before. Let's just come together again. Let's do it, revamp it. Because it's a big opportunity to kind of like do that. We don't have that. We got to wait around for this could be a consistent thing, and it reminded me a lot of the big three, what Ice Cube is going through, and how you kind of see more behind the scenes of how different sports industries work and how it could be a cutthroat game. So to see them do it, it's kind of like, dang, I wonder if Ice Cube got inspired by them as well. And what was funny, I know we decided not to do the film because we was like, but and you got served. Um, it reminded me of like when they was up that morning, watching they fell asleep watching the AND1 tape basketball. And so I thought that's a reminder, a classic scene from You Got Served. But and I used to think like, oh, was that on TV? Right? Because I'm like, I don't remember seeing this. But I remember our other cousins would have those down my night. But it just went worldwide. So I think they have a chance to revamp themselves.
so they they sold it because one of the main people, Tom Austin, right? He got overwhelmed, physically, emotionally, and got a digestive digestive disease. And this is what I think. Just because he resigned doesn't mean the ship should sink. The ship sunk after he resigned, and it's like one guy should not affect the whole thing, but it all crumbled down just over because one guy resigned, and I'm like, that means you guys weren't taking care of business. Your organization was not organized. Because if everything comes crashing down, because one person leave, I could see if it was multiple, but
That's a good
they laid
point.
off a bunch of people, and it's like you guys must have behind the scenes weren't taking care of the business, because that's why you sold it, and then they said,
That's
oh,
right.
over the years,
It's not like you had like people to really speak to other than the three of you, like each other, and it should have been the players as well. But to spread that workout. You know what I mean? Ask the players what kind of designs they want. You know what I mean? Ask the people because I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy it. I was trying to find a shoe that I would be like, okay, if I could, out of the shoes they showed us, I'm like, I just never liked and1 shoes. But I like the movement. You know what I mean? And I think they could make it even better today, you know? And the fact I didn't like that they showed Nike, it was like they basically took everything that I'm like, dang, you know, and they took your player too, you know, and did a whole commercial. But
Well,
he had to get his bread. He had to get his bread. But I like how they didn't put him in the middle, like, oh, don't go support them. It
you
was
mean
like,
Vince Carter?
oh yeah, that was Vince Carter. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah. Carter.
Vince Carter
Oh,
did them a solid. He wasn't signed. He was signed with Nike, but on the dunk contest, he wore and1s. So that was just he was just doing them a
oh,
solid.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Some other players.
But they definitely stole the Nike definitely stole their street ball movement. And that's the thing, people's hate, and you don't get credit for it. But this is what I think they should have did because they said at the end, and1 has been sold over and over again. So there's been different groups and companies buying it. What if the three founders gave it a little bit of piece to the players? Like instead of selling it, well, I guess, I feel like maybe in a way, when you sell it to someone else, maybe you should make a deal with the players so they can get a little bit of cut because they were like, oh, this is no notice, and so no more mixtapes and tours and all that stuff. And I feel like maybe you should have took care of the players in that new deal. So instead of just selling it, "Oh, okay, our hands are tied, it's done, over with," and just telling them, well, maybe put some of the main players into the deal so you can continue that movement because now and1's not going to be the same. Even if you revamp it, it's like, how are you going to do it? You don't have the main ones. And I think AO is a basketball coach now. And I feel like, uh,
They gotta make damn near make a new one. They're
because
fat.
what's, I have 2 minutes left. What's like the biggest lesson you learned, in this film? Like, I feel like the biggest lesson is like know the business, know the business. I feel like play the graduates that went to graduate school, they didn't delegate right because it was overwhelming. And because, like they said, Nike got a bunch of people in one department, and they had maybe 5 people on the design when Nike probably got hundreds. So they didn't delegate right. They didn't know the business. That's why it crashed because one person resigned, and the players they didn't know the business either. And then later they like, hmm. And that's why this is a lot about NIL too in college. Players wasn't getting paid in college with their name and likeness and image. Now they are. And so you got to
Yeah.
know business on both sides. What's your biggest lesson?
Whoa.
Less
I
than a
think
minute.
the biggest lesson is, where you just gotta start where you are. If you want to do anything, that's what they did. They wanted to see a change. They started it. They failed, but look, now they got something to look back on and learn from. So I think it's kind of just start where you are.
Yeah, because they made something out of nothing, a whole brand. Make sure you guys visit Road to William on YouTube. Go check it out. One stop shop for all the icons and reviews and knowledge. Make sure you guys like and comment and subscribe and tell me your favorite and1, memory. And thank you for joining me, cuz. It was great.